Lyra was totally freaking out. She was running hot and fast, but definitely not in athletic gear. She was rocking this borrowed, bougie crimson silk gown, a dress that belonged to the chick who was supposed to marry Marcus. And Marcus? He was a straight-up creep, a rich and shady dude who had pulled some sketchy moves to put Lyra's dad in major debt. Now, he treated Lyra like his own personal property. Toxic much? Her heart was thumping like she was on the verge of a cardiac arrest. The alley was roughing up her heels. She knew Marcus was right on her six. She had to disappear like right now. Then she saw a large, fancy building, the Grand Belvedere Museum. Tonight it was hosting this massive, mega bougie party, the Midnight Masquerade. She ditched her fancy door and blasted into the service entrance. The museum was lit, a dazzling mess of high fashion and old money. Everyone had their faces hidden behind expensive masks, looking like rich, spooky phantoms. Lyra, maskless and clearly in crisis mode, stood out like a sore thumb. She needed to chill and hide, but her panic was giving off major main character energy. The host of the party, Ethan Miller, spotted her immediately. Ethan Miller was a technology billionaire, the kind of guy who built his empire quickly and was known for being ice-cold and razor-sharp. He was the king of this vibe, but he had his own drama. An annoying rival, Mr. Vance, was trying to force him to marry his basic daughter. Ethan saw Lyra's desperation and thought, I just found my boss move. He walked over smooth as glass. He put a confident, possessive hand on her back and pulled her in close before she could even say, I'm out. Lyra, he whispered, low-key commanding. Where have you been? You had me stressing. Lyra froze, looking up at his silver mask. His eyes were the only thing she could see, cold, brilliant, and clearly telling her, play along or you're busted. Right on cue, Mr. Vance showed up with his bratty kid. Miller, still flying solo, huh? Ethan flashed a rare, scary smile. He slipped a huge, antique signet ring off his finger and put it on Lyra's shaking hand. Actually, Vance, meet my fiancée, Lyra, Ethan announced. She's just back from a long sabbatical. Welcome home, darling. He squeezed her hand, a clear vibe check. Don't speak. Minutes later, they were in Ethan's private office, which was straight fire, all dark wood and crazy expensive books. Ethan dropped the fake fiancé act instantly. I need you on the clock for 1 week, Ethan stated, pouring a drink. You gotta be Lyra, wear the ring, and hit 3 social functions. If Vance thinks we're getting married, he'll back off. Lyra, done with the trembling, leaned into the anger. And for the drama, what do I get? Your freedom, Ethan replied, totally unfazed. I'll make sure Marcus is Deniso. And when the week's up, you walk with a whole stack, $1 million. Lyra was shook by the number, but she held her ground. I'm not a contract worker. I won't be your puppet, dude. Ethan's lips curved slightly. Good. Being boring is a major fail. And boring gets you married to a Vance or back to Marcus. I can see you're a savage. Lyra noticed his eyes weren't just cold. They were deep. She sensed he was low-key hiding something. He was hurt, not by a runaway bride, but by the tragedy of his little sister years ago. That event built the ice-cold walls around him. I'll do it, Lyra agreed firmly. But the minute Marcus is out of the picture, the deal is dead. And I pick my own clothes. Deal, Ethan said. Lyra was zero help as a polite socialite, and Ethan was absolutely obsessed with it. At a business dinner, instead of being quiet, she straight up debated global economics with his partners, leaving them shook by her smarts. At a fancy garden party, when Ethan's overly stiff assistant tried to correct her posture, Lyra just gave the assistant a look that said, bye, Felicia, and the assistant peaced out. Ethan watched and gave a tiny, approving nod. He didn't want the perfect replacement. He wanted her unfiltered vibe. One night, Lyra found him alone in his study, just staring at the fireplace. You're waiting for me to crack, aren't you? She asked softly. He turned. Everyone cracks. I'm just curious to see if you burn out before you do. Lyra held his gaze. I've been running so long. I don't even know what to do when I stop. You're all ice-cold vibes, but I think you're just reflecting the fire you're trying to hide. Ethan stepped closer, his usual distance gone. You're the only person who hasn't looked at my money or the mask. You don't perform. You're the real deal. The fake plan blew up 3 days later. Marcus, fueled by pure rage and toxicity, found Lyra at Ethan's penthouse. He bypassed security and found them chilling on the balcony. The contract is null and void, Miller. Marcus yelled. She's my collateral. She stole, and you're hiding a criminal. Lyra prepared for the inevitable drama. Ethan stayed perfectly calm, which was savage. He slowly walked up to Marcus. That's a big claim, Marcus, Ethan said, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. He snapped his fingers. His head of security handed him a stack of papers. Lyra didn't steal. She just relocated. And that debt you're crying about? My legal team found the receipts proving your deal with her dad was straight-up fraud. He threw the papers onto the floor. The debt is gone. The police are waiting for you now. You're busted. Get out of my face. She is protected. A little while later, Lyra stood by the window, the signet ring suddenly feeling heavy and for real. You were my hero, low-key, she whispered to Ethan. Thank you. The contract is done. I'm peacing out before sunrise. Ethan caught her hand, not holding her back, but asking her to stay. I gave you that ring for a role, he said, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. But the role I need you to play now, there's no script. Lyra smiled, her guard totally down. I'm done needing someone to save me. Ethan's face softened completely, a true, vulnerable look. I know. That's why I'm asking you to stay. Not as a contract, not as a replacement, but as the only person who saw me. I'm asking you to be my fire, Lyra. Will you marry me? Lyra looked at the ring, then the man who was no longer cold, but finally open and honest. Yes, she said. The girl who ran from one toxic situation just chose her major glow-up, trading a bad cage for a golden life built on being unfiltered and real.